Day 5, Americans trapped behind enemy lines. Pretty much, well, they're being held at the whim of the Taliban. Yes, a terrorist organization. On Sunday, the entire country of Afghanistan fell to the Taliban as Joe Biden gears up for yet another long weekend in Delaware. Wow. Only the Hamid Karzai International Airport remains under U.S. control. At this hour tonight, thousands of Americans and thousands of our allies hopelessly stranded all over the country, as we said, behind enemy lines. At this hour, the Biden administration, they still don't know exactly how many. Joe's estimating about 15,000. They don't know where they're located. They can't even tell us exactly how many have been evacuated. And worst of all, they have zero plan to rescue any Americans. And according to the Wall Street Journal, this is the return of America held hostage. Some 15,000 U.S. citizens and residents are behind Taliban lines, and there's no easy way to get them out. That's just a fact. They've allowed it to get that bad. And as we speak, there are other countries at least trying, and they're extracting their citizens with their special forces. For example, the British are calling it Operation Pitting, but the United States, as of now, has no such program. In a press conference, the Department of Defense told us that the U.S. military is under orders to protect the Karzai International Airport, and that is it. According to the State Department in a memo, quote, the United States government cannot ensure safe passage to the Hamid Karzai International Airport. But they're suggesting people might think about going there, but we can't provide you safe passage there. So we're securing an airport that people will take great risks to get to. Only someone as stupid as Joe Biden could come up with a plan like that. Of course, now he's going on vacation again. According to reports, the Biden administration, they're looking for what they call non-military ways to move Americans to the airport past the Taliban. Okay, I'd like to know what that might be. What are the plans? Look at your screen, because this is what it looks like outside of the airport. It is chaos. It is carnage. Taliban fighters viciously beating, whipping, stabbing crowds, seemingly doing it at random. Shots ring out constantly. Men are abducted on the back of pickup trucks. Even American journalists have come under attack. Take a look.
You can see that some of these Taliban fighters, they're just hopped up on adrenaline, or I don't know what. It's a very dicey situation.
Suddenly, two other Taliban charge towards us. You can see their rifle butt raised to strike producer Brent Swales. When the fighters are told we have permission to report, they lower their weapons and let us pass.
Okay, now we're going. Get in the car.
God help every American that's there now. As you can see, this is now beyond dangerous. Anyone making their way to the airport, they are literally putting their life in the hands of the same vicious terrorists, that allowed the plotting and planning and scheming of 9/11/2001. But according to Joe Biden, it's all going according to plan. Knock on wood. Take a look at this.
Now, granted, it took 2 days to take control of the airport. We have control of the airport now.
Still a lot of pandemonium outside the airport.
Well, there is, but look, but no one's being killed right now. God forgive me if I'm wrong about that, but no one's being killed right now.
No one's being killed right now. Well, you're wrong about that. People are being killed and beaten and whipped and stabbed at checkpoints. We have reports Taliban fighters are blocking many from even getting through, and that yet Americans are being told to attempt to get there, but they can't be protected. There's no guarantee of safety. Now flights are taking off half empty. Joe Biden doesn't seem to realize the magnitude of what is going on and what led to this mess and how it could have been prevented. Take a look.
What happens now in Afghanistan? Do you believe the Taliban have changed?
No. I think, let me put it this way. I think they're going through sort of an existential crisis about, do they want to be recognized by the international community as being a legitimate government? I'm not sure they do. But look, I'm not sure I would have predicted, George, nor would you or anyone else, that when we decided to leave, that they'd provide safe passage for Americans to get out.
existential crisis, safe passage from terrorists. Okay, when you saw that the Taliban took over 10% of the country, 20% of the country, 30% of the country, 40% of the country, why was there no urgency then? Does this, look safe to you, Joe Biden, as you make your way back to Delaware? Would you want one of your loved ones outside of that airport, behind enemy lines, getting pistol whipped, getting beaten, getting shot, or just in fear of all the above? Look at your screen. These are Afghan families literally passing their babies over a wall covered with razor wire, begging the British to take their children because they know that their children will be murdered by the Taliban if they don't get inside of that airport. Think how desperate a mother or father would have to be to do such a thing, but they do it because that's all they think they can do to save their kids, because they know how what the Taliban is all about and how they treat people. Now, there is no safe passage, not for the Afghan people, not for Americans, not for the allies, not for the interpreters that we promised we'd protect. And now we're witnessing what is one of the biggest hostage situations in the history of the U.S. and the biggest military debacle in the history of the U.S. And you have a president so checked out that he's spending most of his spare hours on vacation with no plan, except that, well, the Taliban has said that they're going to allow safe passage to the airport when we know that's not happening, considering they have multiple checkpoints. They have surrounded the entire perimeter of the airport, and nobody is getting through unless they get Taliban permission. And even worse, so many innocent souls are already dead. But according to Biden, this is really much ado about nothing, apparently. Take a look.
We've all seen the pictures. We've seen those hundreds of people packed into a C-17. We've seen Afghans falling.
That was 4 days ago, 5 days ago.
Well, you don't think this could have been handled? This actually could have been handled better in any way? No mistakes?
No, I don't think it could have been handled in a way that we're going to go back in hindsight and look, but the idea that somehow there's a way to have gotten out without chaos ensuing, I don't know how that happens.
Well, you could have done it before they made their march to Kabul. You didn't have to give them Bagram Air Force Base either. You could have acted earlier. It didn't have to go chaotically. It could have gone very smoothly. Logistics could have been employed. We could have had a plan to extract, identify every American and get them out weeks before. But Biden said that a Taliban takeover, well, was not inevitable. Joe was just telling us that a couple of weeks ago. He was reassuring the American people that the Afghan army, one of the most capable, well-trained armies in the world, and that they even had an air force, and that there are only 75,000 Taliban. And then the Taliban makes their march, and every step of the way, Joe apparently didn't notice. He said there'd be no chaotic scenes at the U.S. Embassy in Kabul with helicopters, scenes similar to the fall of Saigon in '75. Yeah, we have those scenes. And then he pulled American soldiers out in the middle of the night. He abandoned Bagram Air Base. He dismantled Trump's Contingency and Crisis Response Bureau. That was back in June he dismantled that. That was set up by President Trump and Secretary of State Pompeo to provide aviation, logistics, medical support to Americans if they get trapped abroad. Why would you have gotten rid of that program? And Joe stood by and did nothing as the Taliban made all of these rapid advances all over the country in the past 2 months. They acted like it wasn't happening. In fact, an internal State Department cable in July actually warned of Kabul's imminent collapse. Joe did nothing. And now we're experiencing what is the single worst foreign policy crisis and debacle ever. The lives of thousands of Americans are literally in the hands of evil terrorists. Our Afghan partners, they have been abandoned and left for dead. And I can promise you those left behind will die. Gruesome deaths. Our allies rightly no longer trust us. Our enemies are only emboldened. Billions of dollars in U.S. weapons. They didn't have a plan to remove them or at least destroy them. You know, night vision goggles, planes, helicopters, up-armored vehicles. Yeah, that you paid for. They're now in the hands of the Taliban. That makes them even stronger. And today, Joe Biden had no public events again, called the lid, I'm done at 3:30 in the afternoon. No press briefing. I guess Jen Psaki's back on vacation because we didn't hear from her. We haven't heard a word from Kamala Harris in more than a week, and thousands of American lives are at risk at this hour. And the Biden administration is completely, totally detached and out to lunch. This is by every definition a dereliction of duty. If Joe Biden is not up for this job, now we've joked about it, we've kidded about it, we've shown you the video, and then we stop laughing about it because it's not funny. Because seeing a Joe Biden weak and frail and a cognitive mess is not good for the United States. It's not good for our fellow citizens, those trapped behind enemy lines tonight, and it's not good for the world either. If he doesn't care about the lives of Americans abroad, if he's not up to this job, he needs to either step down or be removed. If he just wants to live out his remaining days on a beach in Delaware, I'm fine with that. Step down, let someone more capable take over. Someone that may have a sense of urgency about how dire this situation is and the amount of potential power and leverage that he has now single-handedly given a terrorist organization, and God forbid what I can think of in my mind, which I will not express, they could do to the Americans held behind enemy lines. We pray for those Americans, every one of them. We want them home safely. They're trapped in Afghanistan. We pray for our friends. We pray for our allies who have been abandoned, and pray also that as many lives as possible, hopefully, prayerfully, every life will be saved before it's too late. If it does work out that way, it will be a miracle, a modern-day miracle, but it won't be because of anything Joe Biden did. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.